Hey, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Judge Tamika West Bernard. I'm presiding over the preliminary hearing calendar for this morning. We are streaming live via YouTube. We have so I'm officially calling. State of Georgia versus Chavirak Hung for the charge of possession of a firearm by a felon, warrant number 2022 CW 51958. And then there's a second charge, warrant number 2022 CW 52452, possession of a firearm by a felon. So you have two different charges pending against you, sir. This is your preliminary hearing. The state is represented by ADA Sheriff Freeman, and your counsel is appearing via live, via Zoom. Jarique Rogers will be representing you. Is the state ready to proceed forward with their case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please proceed forward.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Johnson, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony about to provide in the matter of Chavirak Hung will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
I'm Detective Jethro Johnson. I'm employed with Clayton County Police Department. I've been employed 11 years with that department.
Okay. And sir, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I've been operating as a detective for 4 years.
Okay. And Detective, while working with the Clayton County Police Department, were you assigned a case involving Mr. Chavirak Hung?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And there were two separate cases involving this defendant, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's start with the first case that you took out a warrant for the incident that occurred on December 21st of 2020. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Please tell us what happened to cause you to take out a warrant for that date.
All right. What caused that was I was assigned a case by a victim, Latrina Godfrey, earlier in 2021, I think in September. She filed.
Excuse me, I'm going to object here. It appears that he's just reading to us. So I would object to the witness reading to us.
Detective Johnson, I need for you to testify from your memory, and if you need to refresh your recollection, then just let me know.
Okay.
Sustain, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Latrina Godfrey filed a report with Clayton County Police. And she stated that Mr. Hung had resided with her at some point in time during that year, and that she suspected that he might have stolen her firearms, but she was unable to provide any serial numbers for the weapons. In the course of my investigation, however, I did discover that Mr. Hung had made two firearm transactions at Acme Pawn. The first one was on December the 21st. The second one of December the 21st of 2020. The second one was January the 4th, the next month in 2021. Both transactions occurred at Acme Pawn in Clayton County.
I'm sorry, Detective Johnson, let me just go back. The firearms that the victim indicated that she believed Mr. Hung had taken, was she able to give you a description of those firearms?
She did provide a general description, but she wasn't able to provide a serial number. Okay,
was she able to tell you the type of weapon?
No, she wasn't even able to provide the make and model. One weapon, there was a general type that she was able to describe, and it was a shotgun, but she didn't know the make or model or this.
Okay. So how did you learn that there were two transactions done by Mr. Hung at Acme Pond?
Well, as a part of investigative procedures, I accessed a database that provides pawn transactions, and with Mr. Hong's name as a search factor, and it came back that there were some transactions that occurred at that pawn shop, and further investigation revealed that it was transactions involved firearms, weapons. The transaction that occurred in I believe it was in December was an M&P 40 caliber, and then in January the 4th it was a shotgun, but I wasn't able to correlate it with the weapon that Miss Godfrey had reported because she didn't know the make or model or the serial number. But these were legitimate pawn transactions. I obtained the original pawn receipts that had the ink print of the person who made the transaction, even though the paperwork did say that it was Shavarak Hong that made the transaction. I had our CSI department conduct a latent print comparison on the fingerprints on both transactions, and they came back with a positive match for Mr. Hong.
Detective, also, were you able to get any video surveillance regarding these transactions?
No, I wasn't able to obtain any video surveillance. I was able to get a photo image of Mr. Hong in the transaction, and the photo image matched photo ID.
During your investigation, were you able to determine whether or not Mr. Hong had any prior felony convictions?
Yes. I was able to ascertain that he was convicted in 2017 for a theft charge in Clayton County Superior Court, and it was a felony conviction.
Sir, did all of this take place in Clayton County?
Yes, it did.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, Attorney Rogers, your witness.
Yeah. So Detective Johnson, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Detective, his first question, you're the lead detective on this case, is that correct?
Yeah, the lead and only.
Lead and only. I guess, yeah, if you're the only one, I guess that does make you the lead. With that being said, let me ask a couple of questions. I want to kind of go back to what y'all was just talking about regarding the video surveillance, but having a photo. Where did the photo come from?
The photo derives from when he went into the pawn store and made the transaction. They take a photo of his picture, and then they upload it on a database. And so I obtained the photo through the database.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just making sure I understand. So if somebody comes to pawn anything or firearms only, they take a picture. Is that correct?
Yeah, firearms for sure. Most of the time it's for any transaction. If it's like a saw or chainsaw or whatever, most of the time they will take a picture.
And when they take the picture, does the picture have the item that they're pawning in the picture?
Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. This one didn't have the item, it's just a photograph.
And correct me if I use like the wrong label for the forms, but it sounded like you said you had pawn receipts that had a thumbprint, the name. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's called a pawn receipt or a pawn contract. And usually on the back of it is where it has all the terms and conditions of the pawn. And that's where the ink print is affixed. And on the front part, it just has the terms of the contract, like the item that was pawned and the redemption period and all that, and how much money was given by the pawn store to the subject.
Do they, to your knowledge, does that particular pawn shop, at least, they require an identification to pawn anything?
They require identification. Some stores are different. This store here, I'm not sure that they require identification for everything, if I understand your question correctly. But I believe that they do in firearm transactions all the time.
And the pawn receipt and the pawn contract, is this one form? Let me make it a little more clear. Is it one sheet of paper?
Yes, it's one sheet of paper. It's a small sheet of paper, usually with most of the pawn stores. It's a small, like, rectangular sheet of paper with a front and back to it. It's not like an 8x10.
Yes. And who fills out the pawn receipt part of it? Well, actually, I'm sorry, not to cut you off, but let me ask it a little more specifically. In this case, do you know who filled out the pawn receipt?
Yeah, there should be a name on it. Usually it's the store manager or the store clerk. Or any employee that's employed by the store.
Okay, but yeah, so it's done by the store. That's kind of more what I was asking about. Yeah. And you said on one side of it, I believe you said that it identifies what item is being pawned. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then is there
the face side or the front side is usually the item that's pawned, serial number, if the make and model of whatever the entity is, and then on the reverse side, it'll have the terms of the contract and the print that I referred to.
And the reverse side, is that what side would a person? Well, and I don't want to assume, actually, the person pawning it, do they sign something at some point?
Yeah, they also sign that contract.
Which side do they?
It's usually on the
print on it.
The front side is the one they usually sign.
And the print, did you say the print was on the back?
Yes, sir.
And I guess a couple more questions probably. When the pawn receipt is signed, well, let me ask, do you know where the signing of the pawn receipt happens? Like, is it, as in, can a person sign that elsewhere other than at the store?
No, they have to sign it at the store at the time of the transaction. If I understand your question.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Do you know if anybody else was present at the time that Mr. Hong was supposed to have been doing either transaction?
No, I don't know. Other than Mr. Hong himself and whoever he was doing the transaction. I don't know if anybody else was present. No.
Have you spoken to the employee that actually did either of the transactions?
I've spoken with the employee, yes, with the manager. They do a lot of transactions, so they rarely remember, the specifics of what went on.
I just want to make sure I understood your answer correctly. So you're saying you have not spoken with the employee that actually did the transaction, or?
Yeah, I've spoken with the employee that did the transaction.
Okay. And then to kind of interpret where you're going with that, you're saying that they don't really recall much, or?
Yeah, they don't recall most specifics because they do many transactions a day. And by the time I got this case, I think I got the case in September, and by the time I got around to my end of it, some months had passed.
You ever spoke with Mr. Hong?
I've never spoken with Mr. Hong. I attempted to, but I was successful.
And so, and I just want to make sure I'm clear that at this point, nobody is testifying or saying that they've actually seen Mr. Hong in possession of either of these weapons, just that he's the one on the records pawning them.
That's correct.
No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, ADA Freeman, do you have any redirect?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Okay, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state rests.
Okay, Attorney Rogers, any witnesses?
No, ma'am, Your Honor, just argument.
Okay, we're ready for argument. The state?
State waives opening.
Okay, Attorney Rogers.
Your Honor, at this point, I would say that I find it more interesting the information that we don't have at this point, as in we don't have anybody saying Mr. Holmes ever actually seen in possession of any of these items. He's not alleged to have been on video or photograph in possession of any of the items that he's supposed to have pawned. The part of the reason I asked about, what the employee recalled is that at this point, we can't even rule out that there was somebody else present, participating in the transaction. Additionally, I'm not sure that the mere fact of someone pawning something puts them in legal possession of it. Just because I put my name on some paperwork doesn't mean that I actually held an item or that I controlled the item. Pawn shops, it's not court. It's not a sworn statement. You're not, testifying. It's not anything like that. You can come in there and tell them anything. I imagine that's partly why they at least take pictures at points, but that's why I asked whether or not he was actually shown in possession of the item. So at this point, Your Honor, the most we have is that Mr. Hong info was there. He was apparently, at least based on the records being referred to by Detective Johnson, he was at least apparently present, but that's mere presence at this point. Any statements made to facilitate a transaction that weren't sworn statements, I don't think that they would rise to a level of a basis for probable cause, and I would ask that the court dismiss for lack of probable cause. Thank you.
Thank you. ADA Freeman.
Thank you, Judge. We believe the information testified to by Detective Johnson is sufficient for probable cause for both of these charges of possession of a firearm by a felon. Judge, Detective Johnson testified that he was able to get the slip of paper with the print from Mr. Hong. There was a still image of Mr. Hong. These two separate occasions, we even have the initial victim who indicated that she believed Mr. Hong had taken two of her weapons. So Judge, we're asking that you bind both of these charges over to Superior Court.
Okay. Based upon the evidence presented to the court today, I do find sufficient probable cause to bind over both charges against Mr. Hahn, specifically for possession of a firearm by a felon. And so that'll be 2 counts. That is the order of the case today. I want to thank both parties for their presentation of the case. And Mr. Hahn, that will conclude your preliminary hearing for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. And I misspoke earlier. So Detective Johnson is not on